Welcome into this Get Up exclusive. I'm Peter Schrager, joined by Kevin Clark, Ben Solak. We got Mike Tannenbaum as well. You know, later today on Friday, the Masters will be having their cut being made heading into the weekend, losing the players who are just not up to par. So let's see if these football takes make your cuts.
Ooh.
This is good. What we're going to do is we're going to give a football take. You tell us whether you're okay with it or you're out on it. Kevin Clark, I'm going to start with you. Rookie quarterbacks, no matter what, should always sit to start the season. Does that take make the cut?
First of all, I'm looking at all my Masters bets. Nobody's making the cut on my card, so that we'll just start there. But this take makes the cut for me. I think that you look at the history of the best quarterbacks, and yes, some of them that started in September had a lot of success, but guess what? They got the crap knocked out of them in the meantime. I think about a guy like Cam Ward last year where he was in a talentless situation, almost a borderline toxic situation. The receivers were dropping passes. I just don't know what you learn from it. I would sit, I would learn, I would sign a bridge quarterback. The Raiders are doing this perfectly. Kirk Cousins is a better bridge quarterback than most of these teams have trotted out with the first-round pick the last few years. He's going to understand the offense. He'll be a coach in the room once he gets benched. He'll be there for 8-9 weeks as starter, and then he will let the peaceful transition of power happen for Fernando Mendoza. It's perfect.
Is that how you see it? 8-9 weeks of Cousins?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think the Raiders hope so.
Yeah.
I think Mendoza hopes so.
Ben Solak, your thoughts?
Mendoza wants to play in week 1. Mendoza's a competitor. That take sometimes makes the cut. He's an inconsistent golfer. There's sometimes you want the guy to play in week 1, right? He would have sat there with first overall pick and benched Trevor Lawrence and benched Caleb Williams and not let these spectacular talents play.
Caleb Williams had more unblocked pressures his rookie year than anybody in the history of football. He was taking hits.
And it really ruined him, clearly, the sophomore season.
They needed to bring in Ben Johnson and retool the offensive line. I don't know what he learned in September and October of his rookie year other than this hurts.
But by playing Caleb, you discover that, okay, we know for sure Matt Eberflus isn't going to be our guy for this quarterback. And then you go get a Ben Johnson who watched that first year of Caleb, saw the forest through the trees and said, this is my guy.
I could have figured out Matt Eberflus was bad another way.
Hey, Mike Tannenbaum, if I'm not mistaken, and tell me if I'm wrong, I feel like you guys started Sanchez week 1. Am I not right?
We did, but in a perfect world, I think the quarterback should sit, and you don't want Caleb Williams to go through all those injuries. The best example, I shouldn't say injuries, all those pressures and hits unnecessarily. Best example is David Carr, whose career was ruined before it was ever started. When we drafted Chad Pennington in the first round, he was actually our third-string quarterback behind Vinny Testaverde and Ray Lucas. With Mark Sanchez starting, he was really somebody that was throwing it 15 to 18 times a game with a good defense and running game. We had the ball bounce our way, and obviously things worked out. But if the four of us were running a team, guys, be it Mendoza or whomever, the purview and the lens is how good can we make this quarterback over 10 years, 15 years? These are long-term decisions. And to Kevin's point, if it's 8 weeks, 10 weeks, it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that in the Raiders' case, it's a stabilized offensive line, which it should be. You have a rookie head coach who's going to be a play caller. That's a massive amount of responsibility. What is the rush to get these guys on the field?
I'll never forget. It was week 1. Bill O'Brien was the coach, and Tom Savage started for the Houston Texans. Halftime, they put Deshaun Watson in. They were like, all right, what are we doing? Let's put Deshaun Watson in. And he played. That's sometimes how it is. This is an interesting one because you have so many examples of both sides working out. Jaden Daniels, if he doesn't play for Washington in those first 10 weeks, they're not going to the NFC Championship game, Kevin.
I am aware of that, but I also think that again, what Mike is saying is the most important thing is Jaden Daniels in year 5, 6, 7, and then year 10 eventually. You're getting him to the best career he could possibly have. I think Jaden Daniels is going to have success no matter when he played, whether it was week 1 or week 15 or the following year. So I don't know. There's no right way to do this, okay? Drafting a quarterback isn't an exact science. Bringing him along isn't an exact science, especially with the lack of reps these guys are able to have. No two-a-days in training camp. It's not like the old days. I mean, we're talking about Chad Pennington being the third-string quarterback. He probably got as many reps as the third-string quarterback as a starter does now because of the way the training camp has changed so much. So it's an inexact science, but physically, I would want him to take less hits and then just learn the offense and go from there.
All I know is that I spent months in at home thinking about how good am I going to be on TV, what do I do, what do I say, and on 2 days on set at Get Up, I've learned a lot more than I would have learned sitting at home.
You've done excellent.
To me, reps are developmental.
That's it. Okay, the next one here is a take, and I'm going to go to Mike Tannenbaum to start us off here. Quarterbacks currently take up too much of the salary cap for NFL rosters. You taking that as making the cut, or are you saying that you are out on that one?
I'm out on that. And look, I've had a balanced budgets for a long time, guys, and it's far from ideal for one player to, you know, now 60 upwards of now it'll be $65 million a year on a $300 million cap. When you do the math, it's not ideal, but the alternative stinks. And I've been on the other side of the stink part. You don't want to drive to the stadium with a backup quarterback or somebody you can't win with. So if you have to go light someplace else with rookie offensive lineman or a safety, you make it work. I mean, you can make an argument. One of the reasons Tom Brady was so successful was the amount of the cap he didn't take up with the Patriots. But these are great problems to have. And if you have to pay the elite quarterback tax, you pay it.
All right, Kevin, Lamar Jackson right now is in that kind of crux, and the Ravens have to figure it out. Do you feel like they should just give him everything, or is this one of those where you have to play hardball and try to limit it so that you're not just spending the entire salary cap on a quarterback?
Worth every dime. Imagine this Ravens team, this roster has more holes than we think. Because this time last year, we're talking about a top 5 roster at minimum, maybe the best roster in football. We look at it now and we say, I don't know, can't rush the passer still. Got Trey Hendrickson, didn't solve all the problems. Got a couple other issues there, offensive line, we'll see. But you're saying, what is this franchise without Lamar Jackson?
I take umbrage with the question, and this is not. It's just like, it's great for us in our shoes to say you're the one who should take less money. Everyone else got it, but you're the one of these quarterbacks. Everyone else is fine, but you're the one. It's not our money. Think about you and your profession. If someone said to you, "There's someone else at work that we might want to have to pay, but it's going to come out of your wallet, not."
They asked me that about Solak, and I said, no way.
You said no. You didn't make the cut.
But that's the tricky thing about a hard salary cap, right? That we got a hard cap league, and we have a players' association where all the players are one group. But here are these quarterbacks making 10% of the cap, 20% of the cap. Makes the conversations difficult. But man, I mean, if I'm Eric DeCosta, I run the Ravens. I'm selling a kidney to give Lamar Jackson another $1 million. 100%. I don't know how much a kidney costs these days. Yeah, but I am doing whatever I can to give that guy as much money as possible. You worry about structure a little bit because he's going to fall off athletically. So maybe you try to get yourself some trap doors in that contract to get out early if he starts to get unhealthy. But in general, this is a 2-time MVP. You give him a blank check.
Finally, the NFL has a record-tying 10 teams with new head coaches this season. Ben Solak, does it make sense for these NFL teams to give up on coaches so quickly?
I don't think that take makes the cut. I think it's fair to be giving up on coaches at the pace at which we do. It's certainly faster than we have in years past, but we're better at getting information than we've been in years past. I think that the network of coaches and the conversations you can have with other owners, other general managers, the way we can develop some of these younger offensive coaches is very, very impressive. And so you think about teams who haven't found the right guy moving on once every 3 years or so. Well, we know the impact of once you nail it, once you hit that bullseye, we're talking about a truly highly impactful Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, these sorts of dudes who just elevate your offense immediately. You have to go find one of those coaches. And so while there are times they cut bait too early, in general, I think that
a third of the league changed their coaches. That's a lot.
That's a lot. And to me, the harmful thing is when it's a guy like Jonathan Gannon. I don't think Jonathan Gannon was going to be George Halas if he got an extra 2 years. But what was he supposed to do last year with Jacoby Brissett and a bunch of guys? I mean, it was just a bad roster. What's he supposed to do? How is he supposed to show proof of concept? And that, to me, is part of the issue is owners are giving these guys bad rosters, or they're saying, hey, it's going to be a 4 or 5 year build, and then they bail after a year or two. That happens all the time in this league. So the only thing that I get concerned with is when the message is inconsistent or they pull the plug too early. As an example, Brian Callahan last year with Tennessee. He gets, 6 games to work with a rookie quarterback and a bad roster? Again, I don't think Brian Callahan was going to become Bill Belichick if you gave him 8 games instead of 9. But you pull the plug, you never find out. That creates inconsistency. You and I both work for Omar Productions. We get to lean on Peyton Manning sometimes. His number one thing is don't have a young quarterback learn Spanish, then Latin, then Italian, right? He just wants one coach, one voice, one playbook throughout maybe even the entire rookie contract. That's how you emphasize quarterback development. These teams who are firing coaches all the time are not doing that.
Easier said than done, perhaps. And Mike Tannenbaum, I want to bring you in because the owner has to sell tickets, has to see a stadium, has to see some success. After 2 years, if there's no wins, is it okay to pull the plug?
Nope. And Kevin just really inadvertently made the point for me. I will tell you that not only head coach, but GM is a developmental job. I was the assistant GM of the New York Jets for 5 years. When I became the GM, I thought I had all the answers. I sat in that seat, and it took me about 18 months to really understand the job. Bill Belichick was fired by the Cleveland Browns. So, Ben, I see it differently. Worst case scenario is not firing the coach. It's firing the coach you had in the building and then having him do great things other places. And I think sometimes we do give up way too soon, given the complexities of these jobs, dealing with owners for the first time, media. It doesn't happen overnight. And you show me a mentally tough owner, I'll show you a successful organization. And if you believe in the process of hiring people, sometimes that, development's not in a straight line. But if you believe in why you hired them, give them time. I'm just telling you, these jobs are a lot harder than people realize. And, you bring up guys like Brian Callahan. I would add Brian Daboll. Again, not necessarily saying that Brian Daboll is going to be a Hall of Fame coach, but you brought him in after what he did with Josh Allen. Why would you pull the plug on him and Jackson Dart so quickly?
Yeah, I think the worst case scenario is not seeing the coach have success elsewhere. It's having the coach have success elsewhere, and you're still paying him all that guaranteed money, which is usually the case after just 2 years. Guys, awesome conversation. Let's enjoy the weekend. Let's enjoy the Masters, and let's enjoy Get Up on Monday, because every day on the weekdays you get Up at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for watching today's Get Up exclusive.